What you say? Guys, what's going on? Happy Tuesday. Welcome to my channel. My name is Charity, and I am the Mommy Money Getter. This is my second live for today. Earlier today, me and my girls went to Dollar Tree. If you missed that, it's a quick little live, just about 30 minutes. Your girl was overheating in Dollar Tree, and I had to get up out of there. Plus, babies got to crying. The store was getting crowded. It was a whole thing. It got real ghetto in Dollar Tree today. I got real ghetto in Dollar Tree today. So make sure you check out that live from today, which is June 10th, 2025. For some reason, I just kept wanting it to be Saturday already. I don't know why. The kids are out of school. And now that the kids are out of school, I don't have to wake up early in the morning. I'm not doing all the driving I was doing. So I definitely feel like I'm on vacation. So I'm staying up a little later, and I'm waking up later as well. Today I did wake up a little bit wonky, so I felt a little tired. But I said no. I'm used to getting up and getting my day started pretty early. I'm used to doing my tasks and all of the things that I have to do as a mom. And I have to tell you, I'm going to wait till some of you guys get in. Come on in, come on in, come on in. And as you come on in, go ahead and give this live a thumbs up so that the algorithm could see that people actually like me and can get this live going, and we can get more people in this live with us, okay? Because I think tonight's live is going to be good for moms. And if you're a dad and you want to join in too. I mean, no, I was going to say no color lines, but that's not what I want to say. That's not what I want to refer to. We don't, what's the word? I'm always losing my thought these days, especially when I get on live. That's crazy. The word will be right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't get it out, but I'll get it out eventually. Now, there's 10 of you up in here. Go ahead and thumbs up the live. We have a good conversation going today. Jesus shirt up, please show your face. You know what? I will show my face. I show my face plenty of times on my lives and also on my videos. Check it out. But tonight, my face looks really pretty because I did get dressed, but I've been coughing a lot today, so I didn't want to go live, and if I have to start coughing or something, then I could just press mute rather than be coughing and hacking on live. So, but I had every intention on showing my face tonight because the last few lives I haven't shown my face, so I was excited to show my face. I got dressed and got all made up for you guys. But check out my shorts from today. You can see what I had on. Check out my live from earlier today. I went to Dollar Tree with my girls. As I said earlier, you can see me live. And, well, if you missed the live, you won't see me live, but you can watch the replay. But I'm sure you all have seen the thumbnail, so you know what it is. Motherhood. And like I said, this is a judgment-free zone. Discriminate was the word I was looking for earlier. If I have a few dads who want to join, I'm sure the other mommies won't mind you joining. Thank you, Jesus. Is this Jesus? I think I said Jesus earlier, but I'm sure it's Jesus Serta. Thank you for the kind words. I appreciate you. I hope you're having a good evening. But like I said, this live is for the moms and anyone else who would want to add something constructive to the conversation or who feel like, they just want to listen in. I like listening to live sometimes when I'm cleaning up or when I'm cooking or when I'm driving. Sometimes I don't want to listen to music, but I kind of want that background noise, you know what I mean? And I want to listen to somebody talk. So I hope that my lives are entertaining for you, and not only that, inspire you and also educate you, because that's what it's all about. I like sharing things, and I like doing lives that can be effective in changing someone else's opinions or way of thinking, or show them that, hey, maybe how I think is not so wrong. Maybe the way I think, I'm on the right track with that. So, Mr. K, we are all here and not seeing you. Why? This is live YouTube. So see the video also, not radio. That only voice understand. Yes, very often people do not show their face on live. So I'm sorry that you're disappointed by that. I show my face all the time on my shorts and my live. So, but I'm not going to keep going back and forth in that. This live is not showing my face today. So. And I explained why earlier. I have a cough, and sometimes I may need to mute in and out. And I could turn off the video off and on, but if I start coughing, it's easier just to hit the mute button and cough off camera. But yeah, so but I do, like I said, want to go live and show my face. See, start coughing right there. But and I intended to do that today. I actually went live in Living Color earlier. You missed it. Subscribe to my channel. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss me going live showing my face next time, because you never know when I do. And I bet you're not subscribed. I bet you're not subscribed. And I bet you didn't hit that thumbs up button. So go ahead and do both, and like this, and give me some hearts, and share it while you're at it. So I took some notes. I took the liberty to take notes today. Sometimes I get on live and I know what I want to talk about, but I don't write down key points, and for me, that's no good. So I put the heading down, Mom Talk. Oh, you had to subscribe to join my chat? I didn't know that. See, I need some water. Tonight's title of this live is Mom Talk. We listen and we don't judge. So for the first item that I would like to talk about, let's talk about what do I want to start there? Yes. Okay. What are your plans for the summer with your kiddos? Summer starts officially on June 20th. My kids are out of school. I'm just not really realizing that some people, their kids are still in school. So that's kind of weird for me, because where I live, they've been out of school since last week, which is early June. When I was younger, we would always get out of school right around the first day of summer. So if it was the 20th, or we would get out that week someday. So that's a little different for us. But I know that I want to take my girls out of state, so I'm planning to either take them to Texas or Hawaii. So I know I want to be near the water. And I'm from California, so there's plenty of beach. So we already got all of our stuff squared away for the beach, because we went to one of my daughters has been to the beach lots of times, but I've only been once so far this year. So, and my sister was saying that we should do the beach on the 4th. So I don't know. Maybe. I'm not sure. But I know that that's what I have in mind. We also were thinking about getting season passes for Magic Mountain. I know they had a good deal on those passes a couple of months ago. So, yeah. What are your plans for the summer with your children? Comment and let me know, and we'll discuss that. Because you guys might have some ideas that I haven't thought of. And I may want to put that on my calendar or schedule a date for something that you guys have. The Barnes and I have been doing a lot of stuff already this year, but we want to do a lot more. Burlington today? No, I didn't go to Burlington today. I'll probably go to Burlington sometime next week. Guys, I shop so much, I can't think of anything that I need from a store right now. But I just go in the store sometimes just for you all. I'll go and shop and let you guys see what's in there. because I know a lot of people, they maybe have an idea about what they would like to go and see at a store, but if they see it on YouTube, that will inspire them to shop more. So I have a lot of great shopping videos, but my last shopping video is at Dollar Tree. Guys, a couple of summers ago when I was just getting off work and low on cash, I would take my kids to Dollar Tree and I would give them like maybe $5 sometimes or $10, and we just go in Dollar Tree and I let them shop. They love that. Or sometimes they were like, Mom, can we go thrifting? It doesn't take a lot of money to please a child. Even the teenagers, like taking them to the beach only requires gassing up the tank, packing a lunch, and headed down the coast. Very simple, right? So if you don't have a lot of money, another thing that you can do is go camping with them. That's free, right? I don't know if you have to pay like for your space. Also, an, another thing that you can do if you're low on cash is you can take them to parks. I know if you have the younger kiddos, lots of cities have those splash pads at the park, and those are usually free. I know my city has a few. It gets hot where I live, so I know a lot of moms will take their little ones to the splash pads. My girls are all teens, so it's a little different for them. They're kind of like tired of going to the movie theater. They're done with that. I used to take them all the time when they were little, and they loved it. They're tired of the park, obviously. They're older. They don't want to go to the park. Um, Unless it's a family barbecue or something like that. What else? My kids they like to go shopping. They still like to go shopping, so I can take them out shopping. They love to go spend my money. Um, they like uh, they like amusement parks a little bit, and they love the beach. They absolutely love the beach. Um, what else do they like? But they're ready to travel. They're absolutely ready to travel. So I'm excited to do that with them this summer. But they also wanted to go to a few concerts. We didn't really get to go to any concerts this year. The ones we wanted to go to were just so expensive, like Beyonce. And the cheaper tickets were way up in the nosebleeds, and I don't want to do a nosebleed seat. I would love to see Beyonce while she's still, because she's slowing down. Beyonce is really slowing down. She's not dancing like she used to, and that's not bad because she still puts on a very entertaining show. However, I only want to go to a concert if I can see an artist really close, and to see a Beyonce, to see a Kendrick Lamar and SZA, you have to pay thousands of dollars, and I just can't see me doing that. That's not in my budget. Even I don't know how much money I would have to have in the bank for something like that to be in my budget, but um, I think a concert is definitely on the agenda. I have teenagers; they're fans of music, of hip hop and R&B, and it would be a good idea to take them to a concert or something like that. Like normal everything day things like bowling, going to the pool, they can do with their friends, and that's something fun to keep them entertained. And like I said, if you have little ones, they don't care as long as you take them outside. Um, if you have toddlers, if you have kids who are still in primary school, like under sixth grade, they don't really complain too much. My kids, they pretty much been everywhere that we could go in my state. So right now it's like, and we go out of town here and there, but they want to venture out further than where I normally take them, and I feel it. I'm okay with that. They want to get on a plane. We're gonna get on a plane. I just have to figure out exactly where, and it would definitely probably be right before school, so we can end the summer. We can end it with a bang and go visit a city that we've been wanting to go visit. So that's what I plan to do. So, yeah. Next topic I want to discuss about mommyhood. Thank you guys for joining, by the way. Is like I was talking about a budget. Let's talk about a budget. I don't have a budget. I need to have a budget. I either the budget I have is don't spend too much money. I try to always have money saved up for months ahead. You know what I mean? I try not to spend all my money just like as soon as I get it and let it burn a hole through my pocket. So, what about you all? How's your budget going? Do you budget for the month? And then not only do you budget, do you stick to that budget? Like, I don't stick to my budget. I need to budget and I need to stick to it. I've already told the girls, look, after your birthdays, I'm not going to spend, but I have a birthday in June, I have a birthday next month, and then back to school. So it's like, come on. Hey, keep pushing forward. Thank you for joining my live. I am enjoying my evening. I hope you are enjoying yours as well. Um, Tonight, I'm just having a chit chat with the moms. Right now, the topic is budgeting as a mother. Let me know in the comments if you have a budget and how do you stick to it. Do you have like the envelope system where you put how much you want to spend on groceries and uh, household essentials? Hey, mom of three, all the moms are joining in. Thank you guys for joining the live. All the moms. If you're just joining, please hit the thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do that as well, guys. I appreciate you guys. And also, give me some hearts. I'm trying to get my life out there. Tonight, we're talking about motherhood, the ups and downs of motherhood. I'm the mommy money getter. I have to get to the money because I have kids. So you would think that I would be better at saving and budgeting. I've never been being good at that. And you know what? I think it's me just being undisciplined because whatever I want to go, whatever I want to do, I just work for the money and um, we'll do it. Like if I want to eat out, we're eating out. And I don't restrict myself on that. And you know what? Starting today, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. We ate out twice this week and we're done eating out for the rest of the week. Um, and when I say the rest of the week ends on Saturday. And then next week we'll be preparing for other events. So I think I'm going to hold myself to that and not go out to eat. And the cold thing about it is I have so much food in my refrigerator. I think the only thing that we really, and we just threw away a trash bag full of food. My mother says all the time that God doesn't like wasteful people and we'll starve if we don't be fruitful over our food. So I need to get better at that. I have plans to clean out my deep freezer and head over to Sam's Club so that I can fill up my deep freezer with popsicles and little novelties for my kids because I don't always like to cook and they don't always like what I cook. My kids all have a different diet or taste buds. So some of them like this, like two of my children don't eat seafood. One of them doesn't really like chicken. One of them doesn't like beef. I only have one child that really will eat mostly what I will cook. Anything I cook, she'll eat it. My other two, they are very rigid and very, very dogmatic about what they will and will not eat. So that's another reason why I go out to eat. Like my kids, with my youngest two, they literally will not eat if it's not something that they want. You know how some kids that if you don't give it to them, if you don't give them what they want, they'll just go ahead and eat whatever's there. Not my kids. They're just starting to try different things. You won't believe that one of my kids my youngest is just now eating tacos. So let's move on to that. How do you deal with picky eaters? My mother is has always been a picky eater all my life. I didn't taste ranch till until I was in high school. Um, I didn't eat a lot of different things until I moved out on my own because my mom didn't eat them, and if my mom didn't eat something, she didn't cook it, and it didn't come in the house because she did all the shopping. So my mother was very, very picky and still is to this day. So my mother's a little bit more understanding about kids and picky eating. She wasn't like that with us though. But when we were growing up, she wasn't like that with me and my siblings, but her grandkids for sure. Um, but yes, like I said, my kids are just now experimenting more or exploring more foods. They don't really have texture issues. They don't like something, they don't eat it. Um, Raven, she just started eating tacos. She will eat chicken. She will eat like chicken patties, but she won't really eat like a piece of chicken. They love macaroni and cheese. They love pizza. They love fast food, of course, but they don't really eat. I have limited my eating out lately. I've been cooking more. That's exactly what I want to do, Mama Three. Last week, I cooked a couple of meals, and then my daughter's graduation came up, and ended up eating out that night. And once I got a taste of outside food, then I was back off the wagon. But yes, it's definitely better for your pocketbook, for your waistline, and just overall to eat at home because if you cook something, most times you're going to have leftovers. So you can take that food for lunch the next day. You can pack up a lunch for your husband to take to work, or he can pack up a lunch and take it to work, however you do that. Your kids can have something to eat after school while you're making the next dinner. So it's just better to cook at home because you know what you're putting into your food. And you would think I would be more, I would be more disciplined about eating home because I actually have a clean eating group on Facebook. It's called Clean Eating for Beginners. If any of you are ever interested in that, let me know. I might link it in the description later. My Clean Eating for Beginners book. I mean Facebook group. But clean eating is just some people think it's you can't eat this, you can't eat that. But clean eating is really just eating what you cook yourself and eating food in its natural state as much as possible. And I don't have a problem with that. Eating clean, I really don't have a problem with eating clean, and my children don't either. The issue comes in when I get too lazy to cook, or when I'm not feeling well, or when we have a lot going on. So that's really the issue, because if I cook, I'm going to eat my food, and I'm going to eat it until it's gone. Like, um, I bought some chuck roast steaks. It's like steak, but it's like roast, and it's so good because you can do whatever you want to with that roast. You can make tacos, you can make roasted potatoes, you can make beef and rice, and you can take it and you can have eggs with it. It's really a good cut of beef. And I buy roast. I bought it all the time, but this is the first time I bought roast beef steaks. Hey, Kendall, thank you for joining my live. I appreciate you for stopping by. Tonight we're talking about motherhood. We're having a conversation. This is a no judgment zone, so say whatever you like or comment whatever you are comfortable with, and we're going to talk about it. I have a lot of things to talk about tonight, so um, jump on in the ride. So yeah, kids can be very picky eaters. They don't want this, they don't want that, they don't like this. Shoot, my 13-year-old, I remember when we went through that Happy Meal phase. And if you guys can't hear, let me know. If you hear a lot of background noise, I have my fan on. When my daughter was a toddler, and the funny thing is, with all my babies, as soon as they could sit up, I put them in a high chair, stuck a banana in one hand, an Eggo waffle on the other. And I would let them eat sweet potatoes, whatever I would cook and was soft enough for them to chew, I would put on their high chair. And with my youngest daughter, it took me the longest time to realize that it was so much food on the floor because she wouldn't be eating it. She would be just taking it and throwing it on the floor. Okay. And so she was just so picky, and she would only eat very limited things. Like she would only eat ramen. I don't think she was even eating ramen noodles at that time. Maybe she just wanted waffles. And her father and I would just go at it. We would be chunking them every time it was time for her to eat because he hated that my kids only wanted peanut butter and jelly, or not my kids, our children only wanted peanut butter and jelly, or they only wanted cereal and milk. Because he came from, he was raised that you eat whatever your mother puts on the table. That's great, Mama Three, that your kids don't mind eating clean. My kids are getting older and they're starting to like vegetables and fruit and different things like that. But they don't eat everything I cook, but they don't have a problem with eating healthy. Like I said, my 13-year-old, she was very limited in what she would eat. And I just know from talking to pediatricians that it's better for your kids to eat something than nothing at all. And cereal, I know a lot of people say, oh, cereal has so much sugar in it. It does have a lot of sugar in it, but they fortify the cereal with vitamins and minerals too. So Cheerios and milk is not a bad thing. And if they'll eat a banana or they'll eat a piece of fruit, that's fine for them because the milk is the dairy, the cereal has grains, it has a lot of sugar. So try to get the cereal that doesn't have a lot of sugar. And if you get them the banana, that's the fruit. So you just gotta kind of like pick your battles. As long as they are growing and they're not malnourished, you can give them a vitamin, a multivitamin, so that they're not getting anemic or stuff like that and their hair can continue to grow. I used to give my kids vitamins all the time. Um, the bad thing that did happen was my kids, their teeth got bad because they just were heavily relying on the bottle. I was working at the time too, so it was really hard to get them off the bottle when they were toddlers. But now that they're teens, uh, when they go to the dentist, they always have a clean bill of health because they brush their teeth without me having to tell them 2 or 3 times a day. And we go through water. We run through bottled water like crazy. I have an ice maker sitting on the counter, and my kids, without me having to tell them, hey, drink water, I'll buy juice. I do buy juice, but if I don't buy juice for a few days or for a week, they don't miss it. They rather have the water, and especially now that it's summer. So, yes, for sure. Um, but yeah, we used to go at it because my ex-husband didn't want them to just eat whatever. He was like, they need to eat what you give them. And I would offer them, but they wouldn't take it. And see, this is the thing I could never get him to understand and that I understand as a parent. In our in our parents' days, it was you eat whatever's on your plate, you clean your plate, you don't leave anything on the table because back then it was hard for them to come by food. Um, People didn't have as much access to food and money like they do today. So it was hard. Food was hard to come by, and if I gave you dinner, I knew that I fed you, and you probably couldn't go back later and get a piece of fruit or get a ding dong or something later on. You know what I mean? So that was your meal, so that you could tide over until the morning and go to bed on that. And if you didn't eat it, then you were wasting food that somebody else could have eaten, or you know, I have to make sure that you eat, right? But also, I think parents didn't understand that children, their taste buds are starting to develop. So if you cook with onions, if you cook with garlic, if you cook very spicy foods, that can be foreign to a growing toddler's taste buds. Remember, they're just starting to taste and explore foods, and just like an adult has a right to say, I don't want this food or I don't like this food, I think kids should have that opportunity too. They should have their own agency and autonomy. A child should be able to say, I don't like this food. That doesn't mean that you have to go out and just buy whatever, and that doesn't mean that they shouldn't try, at least try. But sometimes even that's a big ask of a child, because you're telling them, oh, try this, try that, but the smell is just too strong. Like when I was a kid, garlic was just garlic and onions. If I seen that, oh my gosh, no. Ugh, it was just the worst. Bell peppers, yuck. And it seemed like my mom would just be heavy handed with that stuff. And my mom, she's the type of person that she likes to cut her vegetables really small and put them in her spaghetti or whatever, but they weren't small enough for me. I could still see them. And I think too, what my mom didn't do, and I still don't think she does it now. Mom, you're probably listening. Hey, yo, yo, thanks for joining the chat. I appreciate you for coming by. Um, One thing that my mom didn't do was she didn't like saute her vegetables, like when she would make spaghetti and things like that. She would just kind of put her meat and vegetables all together and cook them at once. And that's one thing I do sometimes is I saute my vegetables. And that, when you saute your vegetables, that makes your food taste better too, because it opens up those veggies and then it blends better with whatever else. So sometimes it's just the idea of seeing the vegetable in the food that can get your kids like, ooh, I don't want it. Ew, it has onions. Ooh. But if you blend that stuff together and they can't see it, they won't know it. They don't know what they're eating. So, yeah. Also, when it comes to feeding your kids and being on a budget, make concessions for what everybody likes, what will stretch. Like spaghetti will stretch. Um, what else will stretch? I know spaghetti will stretch like crazy. I like to buy potatoes because my kid, who doesn't like a homemade French fry? Homemade French fries are the best. And rice, you buy rice, you buy your potatoes. I think those should be staples in the house. Bread, cheese, because they can make a cheese toast. If you don't feel like cooking or they don't want to eat what you cook, then okay, well, have a cheese toast. Have, get those apple sauces or get a bag of apples, a bag of oranges. Those things are getting more expensive these days, but those are things that if you have toddlers, you can take an apple and cut it up and give it to them with a cheese toast or a peanut butter and jelly, and give them what else? What else will go with that, guys? Help me out. I'm a little bit distant away from the well, I got Dreamy. So and she's so picky. She'll eat sometimes. It just depends. She has her moments where she just doesn't want to eat. Right. Yogurt can go alongside that. See. My kids used to love those Go-Gurts, and those Go-Gurts have a lot of sugar in them. But I used to buy them by the boxes. My kids loved a Go-Gurt, and they would put those in their lunches. I would give it to them with, like I said, a sandwich. You can cut up a sandwich. The kids, I don't know why kids like this, but if you take a sandwich and you cut it sideways, it's like you just gave them some filet mignon. Kids love a sandwich. And a cup of noodle, a salty cup of noodle. When I saw Kanye West and Kim Kardashian letting their kids eat ramen, I said, okay, well, I guess I'm not a bad parent because they're billionaires and their kids still want ramen noodles. What kid doesn't love a cup of noodle or a ramen noodle? Let those kids have that ramen, because you know what? Even though it's salty, let them drink a bottle of water or two. It'll wash out. It'll wash out. And the food that we have nowadays, whew, unless you're growing it yourself, you don't know what's in it. Let them children eat. You know what? That's a reminder, Mama 3. I just bought some Greek yogurt. I bought the Chobani plain Greek yogurt. I think I got the fat-free or the 2%. And I take raw honey and I eat that together. I used to put granola in it, but granola has a lot of sugar. And sometimes I will also put like strawberries or blueberries. Well, this day I didn't have that. And the fruit and vegetables seem like they're getting so raggedy. Like you go into the store and you get them and you think they're okay. Then the next day you want to eat it and it's like mildew. I don't know what's going. Ever since the pandemic, our fruit and vegetable supply has just gone to pot. So yeah, your kids eat blueberries like candy. I love a blueberry. I love a blueberry with honey and yogurt. It's so good. And raspberries too. I love all the berries, and of course, berries are very good for you. Yes, that's why I go to the fruit market. I saw you, Yo Yo. I saw you go to the fruit market. Yes. Um, there's a like a fruit market, I think, that comes sometimes like every Thursday, but I never catch it. The last time I've been to something like that has been like a few years ago. My children and I, we went and we picked cherries at an orchard, so that was fun. And guys, that's something you can do too. I was talking about the things that you can do with your kids this summer. Find a fruit orchard. There's this winery where I live at. Well, it's not a winery. It's kind of like, what is it? What do I want to call it? And you can go there, and I think they were closed down because of the fires, but I think that they may be opening back up. So I think when I get off live today, I'm gonna check them out. It's like a farm. It's the only black farm, I think, in California, and you can go there, and you can. I think sometimes they may have what is it? I don't want to call it a fruit stand, fruit market. I want to call it something else. See, there I go losing my thought again, my train of thought again. It's not a fruit market. It's not a fruit stand. What is it? A farmer's market. Yeah, a farmer's market. They have that like once a week, where people bring fruit to like a to like a they bring it, and then you can get pick the fruit from there. But I want to go to something like you went to, Yo Yo, or actually go on a farm like me and my children did at the orchard. And I want to actually have a basket, and I want to have on like what like a hand, like a what is that, a scarf tied around my neck and some boots, and we can go through there and pick our own fruits and vegetables. I went to the fruit and vegetable market yesterday. You did, Mama Three? That's a good thing to do with your kids too. Kids like being able to do stuff like that. I think everybody likes doing stuff like that, and I think that's something that teens would like as well. Um, I didn't mention this earlier, um, but I want to go ahead and say that if you want to take your kids somewhere this summer, you don't have a lot of money, take them to the library, free AC. I know we're in California, the libraries, if you live in Los Angeles County, I think they give out free lunch. They also have different programs um, in the summer. Also, check out your local city's website. They'll have different programs for kids. Sometimes they offer summer jobs for the kids. They had that at my local city. They have where the kids could be lifeguards or work at the parks and recs for the summer. I don't know if you ever worked jobs like that, but that's what I used to do for extra money. I used to sign up for the summer gigs. Those are guaranteed jobs. Right, Mama Three. The library is free. And like I said, they usually have something on the community board or the bulletin board showing what different things they have coming up. There's lots of things that you can do for free. And if you can't go out of town, if you don't have money to go out of state, take your kids on a camping trip, something like that. That's usually almost free or practically free. If you don't have, you can say, well, I don't have a tent. Go to a thrift store and get what you need from there. Get your tent, get your igloo, get you whatever you need. Make a list. Cash some cans in or something like that. Barter with somebody to do things with your kids. There's never a reason why you can't do things with your kids. And children, they don't really know. They don't really know, hey, we didn't leave and go out of town this summer. They won't know that. But if you take them to your local park and take them, because where I live at, we have a number of parks. Most cities have parks, and they have pools. And I don't know about now because they changed so much. Lots of things are free these days. When I was growing up, You had to pay for everything. But some of them are like $2 or $3 to get in the local pool. Save up your change. And I'm going to segue back to saving money because I talked about that earlier. That's another thing that my grandmother taught me from when she was young, what she did and still does it till this day, and I do it. Always save all of your change. And then when you get so much of it, you can go ahead and roll it up in the little papers and then take it to the bank, or you can use the coin machines and pour it in there. But I know a lot of people do that, but I do it religiously. I don't spend my I don't ever spend my change. I always keep it. And because you never know. Before you think about it, you'll have $200 or $300 saved up in a year. That can be Christmas presents. That can roll over to your savings for the next year. If you ever run low, that can be a tank of gas. That can be a few packs of meat. It can be whatever. So save that change. Save your change. Every time if you're spending money, cash money, get your change and save it. Um, you don't never know when it might be the difference between you getting to work or paying a light bill or a gas bill, or your kid comes up with something that they need for school, or they need a pair of shoes, and then you be like, I don't have any money. You think back to yourself, wait a minute, I have that change that I've been saving. So let's see. So we talked about what are we doing with the kids for the summer. We talked about what we feed our children. We talked about budgeting. And I kind of went back and forth. And if you have something you want to talk about, you can always put it in the comments and we'll discuss that as well. If you're on a replay, you can still discuss it and I'll come back and conversate with you. It's no big deal. We're all in this together. I also want to talk about, before I move on, about being child free. What do you guys think about those women who say, oh, I don't want children. I know I don't want children. And they're young. They're probably in their 20s, 30s. Or they're young and they're saying, well, I don't want to have children until I do this and I do that. And then they're having children in their 40s. What do you think about those women who wait? I think that women as a whole, we have an expiration date on our on our eggs. When we get 30 years old, and my last child was born when I was probably in my mid to late 30s. And I was told that I was having a geriatric pregnancy. I'm like, what? I thought geriatric was when you're 50. And they was like, no. So I had to do all these tests to make sure that she wasn't missing any toes or fingers, or that all of her bones were there and that her neurological signs were good. I may be saying that wrong. But I had to take a test to make sure that it was called a genetic testing. I had to do genetic testing for my child. So I just always wonder, why do women wait so late? And then you hear them say, well, so-and-so had a baby at 40, so-and-so had a baby at 50. But I feel not only are women taking a huge risk with their reproductive system, because you may not be able to get pregnant at that age. Most women who have never been pregnant and wait until their 40s to have a baby, they have to get help. And that costs a lot of money. And some insurance doesn't pay for it. And you run the risk of not having a child at all, because just because you get help, just because that's available, and just because women are doing it, they're doing a lot of different things. Science is moving along fast, and they're able to help women who are 50 years old have a baby. I know Janet Jackson, I think she was 50 when she had her child. And so was Kenya Moore. But who knows how much they had to pay to get that done? You never know. You don't know what they're doing. They could be growing that baby until that baby is 2 or 3 months and then putting it inside of somebody. You don't know what rich people have access to. And you don't know what's going to become of that child 20, 30 years. I mean, not even 20, 30 years from now when they get in high school. So, and I know I'm going to be, I know I'm going to be rubbing some people the wrong way with that. But I think that it's my opinion that if you want to have children, you should have them by the time you're 30. Just because as women age, our eggs start to, they said they get old and they're not as viable. And then your children have more of a chance of having defects, right? If you wait that long to have a child. But also, I understand that some women, they're just not ready. They just don't know, whatever. But I think that once you get to be a certain age, you should adopt. And I understand every woman who wants to be a mother, most of us want to carry our own children. But at 40 years old, if you waited that long, or if you're 50 and you still want to be a mom, it's going to be it's going to be that much harder for you to get pregnant. Why not adopt? Why not consider adopting or fostering children? There's all sorts of ways to be a mom. But I don't know. I always tell my last three, I was like, you guys weren't playing. You kind of just sprang on me. And my mother says, don't tell them that, but it's true. It's true, but their sisters are grown now, so if I didn't have them, ooh, Lord. I love my little babies. But no, they were not planned, but God had a better plan than I did. But I always thought I would have 2, maybe 3 children, but I always knew that I wanted to be a mom. I always knew I wanted to be a mom. So that was one thing that I knew for certain, that I would be a mom. And, I knew that I wanted that for me. I knew that more than I knew that I wanted to be a wife. I knew I wanted to be a mom. I wasn't sure that I wanted to be a wife, but I knew I wanted to have children and that they would be a part of my life. And I'm not sure if that's because of the time I grew up, because I think that as time changes, so do priorities. Back then, when I was growing up, the priority was to marry a man. He'd take care of you and you have children, right? I would say that was probably my mother's generation. By the time I grew up and got to college, women were going to college and women were doing things. And so it's like, okay, I can wait a little later for children. And nowadays, I hear more and more women saying, I don't want children at all, right? Because they're making a way for themselves. They're not as reliant on a man to take care of them. So if a woman is relying on a man, she tends to have children. And somebody needs to stay home with the children. But when a woman has her own money and she's able to travel when she wants to, she's able to live her life the way she wants to, then a child can kind of hold her back, because the same drive to have a family with the same motivations is not there. So women are electing to not have children as early in age as they used to. And they're also electing not to have children at all. And maybe they just want to date. Maybe they just want to live on their own. I see a lot of women running businesses these days, owning lots of property. And you do have the traditional families that still want to be the mom and dad with the 2.5 kids or 5, 6, 7 kids. And then you also have the moms and the fathers who are saying, we don't never want to stop having kids. And just like I don't understand the moms. And like I said, I'm not trying to ruffle any feathers or step on anyone's toes. To each their own. But remember, this is a no judgment zone. All right, yo, this is a no judgment zone. I don't understand the parents who just have child after child after child after child after child. Now, I'm going to speak to my own family life. I have 5 girls, and my first 2 daughters are like almost 10 years apart. Second and third are 7 years apart. And then my last 3 are very close in age. So uh, I had some time to reflect on life and to grow one up before I had the next child. Um, I think it's probably, I think I did it wrong with the first 3 because they were so separate in age that they never got to play with one another. But I also never had kids running around arguing with each other. Like you see my kids today earlier, they're teenagers. One of them is almost 18 arguing with a 13-year-old. Like, girl, all in Dollar Tree, getting on my last nerves. Hey, K Money, thanks for tuning in. And I'm like, what are you guys? I mean, they just bicker at it. They just go on and on and on. And the daughter that's in between them, she just always quiet and kind of easygoing and relaxed and chill. And the my 18-year-old and my 13-year-old are constantly arguing. And so I'm like, you guys were just arguing in my live today. And then my 18-year-old was like, no, that was fun banter. That everybody's gonna like that. That was good banter for your live. I'm like, I'm not bringing you guys back nowhere else with me. But sometimes I like for them to come with me and be in a live because it just makes it easier for me to chit chat or whatever I'm doing. But usually I don't go live in the store. I usually just do a video and edit it later, so I get to usually edit out all the times they're making me sick or whatever, or getting on my nerves in the store. But today we didn't do that. And guys, I'm gonna sidebar for a second. Check out my live that I did today at Dollar Tree. It got so ghetto. I'm talking about I had to go and check the manager, and then a baby started crying at the end of my life. I'm like, lady, take that baby out the store. But then I had to remember and show her grace, right? Because we moms have to show each other grace. We've all been there. But she wasn't buying anything. She was just in there. She could have walked that baby outside. I can't stand crying children. And with that, let's go into what our pet peeves are about being a mother. Okay? And I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, look, I got PTSD from when you guys were all younger. I mean, when I had to run to the store right after work, when I had to be up early to get everybody to school on time, to when y'all used to just whine and cry. And my 13-year-old is not a baby, and I'm still telling her, stop whining. Because she would whine. This morning she came in my room 6 a.m., like 6:45 a.m., just whining. I'm like, girl, are you crazy? And then now that she's older, I can talk to her like that. Girl, what's wrong with you? Get out my room whining at this time of morning. She was like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, yes, kick rocks. But that was one of my pet peeves when my kids were younger, was them whining and crying. I cannot stand to this day to hear a baby whining and crying. I have my granddaughter Dream, and she does not whine and cry like that. So, I cannot stand those kind of kids, especially if they're 2 and 3 and they're old enough to talk. Do not start whining and screaming. It just gives me the willies. But that's one of my pet peeves. Now that my children are older, and you guys can, start commenting your pet peeves too as a mom. Again, no judgment. Nobody's here to judge you or look down on you. We're all adults. We're all moms. And I might say something that rub you the wrong way, but I'm just talking out loud and saying my opinions. And I'm not here to offend anyone. I just think how I think. And you might say something that I might question, but I'm not going to judge you on it. So don't be ashamed to say how you feel. But I think one of my pet peeves right now, because I often wake up at uh, odd hours. So I tend to want to go back to sleep. But usually it's time for me to wake up and take my children to school. And my daughter Robin, she cannot stand being late. So I'm like, okay, I'm getting up, I'm getting up. And usually I like to get up when they do and shower and get dressed and all of that. But as the school year came to an end, I was like, I'll shower when I get home. And I just wash my face and throw something on and go drop them off. So, but I try not to be one of those moms that come to the school, no bra on, bonnet on, looking a mess. That embarrasses your kids. And what if you had to get out your car? Get dressed when those kids get dressed. So that's why I try to always get dressed when they get dressed and take them to school. But I hate getting up that early in the morning and I hate taking them to school. So I am loving the fact that they are on summer break. Also, my other pet peeve as a parent, what would it be? Um, oh, them chit chat. I have girls. If you have daughters, if you're like me and you have three teenage daughters, you know girls can talk and talk and talk. And I love my babies and I love that they feel like they can come to me about anything. But I'm just like an introvert at times. I like to be pensive and I like to consider life and I like to be alone with my thoughts. That's just my nature. Even before I had children, I just like to be off to myself. So that's probably one of my other pet peeves is having to talk to my kids. When my older two children, I didn't talk to them a lot. And I realized that that was selfish in me. So with my younger children, I make sure I talk to them all the time. And my granddaughter says all I do is yap. Call me a yapper, right? She's so disrespectful. I love her though. But one of my daughter's friends was over visiting. And I got to talking to them and lecturing them. And he told her, he was like, your mom's a yapper. I was like, no, he didn't. He can't come back over. But I guess I do yap all the time. But it's better that you're yapping and talking to them so that they can't say that no, my mom ever talked to me. And it's also better that they know from because they learn from you. And you may think, oh, kids aren't listening. And from the work I used to do, I used to be um, a probation officer, right? So the work I used to do with juveniles, I know that they listen to you. Kids will listen to you and they will hold on to what you say. So if I told a kid something at work, they will hold me to that. They will come back later, Miss Howard, you said so and so. And I'm like, did I say that? They say, yeah, you told me if I did so and so, if I stayed good at school, if I did what I needed to do, you told me next time if my PO wasn't here, you would give me a phone call for my PO. I was like, all right, get your phone call. Or I would tell one of my caseload something, and they would say, oh, a couple of weeks later, Miss Howard, remember you told me this? And I'd be like, no, because we have lots of kids that we come in contact with. And one of them would tell me, oh, you said this, and this, and you were right about this. Or you were right, this happened this way, and I didn't want to listen to you, but, you know, I see that you were right about what you said. So just from the work I did with juveniles and just from raising my own children, I know that children are sponges. And you might think that, oh, they're not listening to me. They're not paying attention to what I'm saying, but they are. They are paying attention to everything you do, and they are soaking up everything that you say. So I always try to make it a point to tell my kids everything I want them to know because it's only so long that they're going to listen to us anyway. Once they start feeling themselves and once they get older, they're not listening. So we have but a small window to talk to our children and really feed them and guide them, because that's what parenting really is. At your Once they're infants, you're growing them up, right? When they're toddlers, you're teaching them how to become independent. Once they go to school, you're showing them how to be disciplined, how to have respect for themselves and others. And once they become teenagers, at that point, you should be guiding them, because it's kind of too late to start teaching a teenager. They already know what they know. But at that point, you want to guide them. You want to listen to them and give them the confidence and the trust to help them make the right decisions. And the more you try to make them do what you want them to do, the more they're going to rebel. But me, I'm the type of parent that I'm always talking and always giving my daughters game. So when they see when a situation arises, even if they didn't make the right choice at that very moment, and they learn from it, they were like, "Mom, you was right about that. You said this was going to happen, and it did." Or they're wise enough to make that decision for themselves and say, "You know what? This happened exactly how you said it would, and I made this choice." So I think the other pet peeve I have is, as a parent, and I think it's not really a pet peeve, it's just that I worry for my children, and I have that concern for them now that they are teenagers and now that they are growing up and will soon be leaving off to college. I worry about the world that we live in. Like, because I know my kids have to live life and experience life, but I also feel that it's so much that goes on. Like, I'm teaching Kamaria how to drive, but at the same time that I'm teaching her how to drive, I worry about, okay, like once she starts driving, she's going to want to go here, she's going to want to go there. But if I'm teaching her how to drive, then I'm going to teach her how to be safe. And if I believe in God and I trust in God, I know that once I pray to Him, He's going to watch over her. So that's just something that I worry about as a parent now. I think that's probably one of my pet peeves right now, is that I have to worry about them so much and wonder, will they make good decisions, and if I really got it in their head. So yeah. What else is in my notes? We talked about being child free and children over 30. Discipline. How are you disciplining your children? I have teenagers now, right? I just stopped taking my kids' cell phones for every little reason. Because that was one good thing I used to do to them. That was my way of disciplining them. If they didn't do their dishes on time, if that's usually what they did. They didn't do their dishes on time, or what else did my kids do? I'm trying to think about what they do. Because they don't really get in trouble at school. Thank God. My kids don't really get in trouble at school. They don't. Maybe they might have been mouthy or didn't do their dishes. That's probably the number one thing that'll get their cell phone taken. But other than that, my kids don't really give me problems, but they have, they have, but on an ordinary day, my kids are just pretty much on autopilot. The only thing that they might not want to do is their chores. One of them would do it automatically. The other two will take their time about getting their chores done. And, you got to kind of like, hey, get your chores done. It's your turn. So, but outside of that, just teenagers being mouthy, teenagers want to talk and express themselves. And I'm the type of mother that I'm okay with you expressing yourself. Express yourself all you want. Say what's on your mind, because you don't know what's on somebody's mind unless they tell you. Parents, mothers, don't try to guess that you know what's going on with your kids, because I can always tell that something is wrong. I can always tell when my kid looks like they're happy and like they're doing okay, but I can also tell when my kid is bored. and when my kid is feeling a little angst. I can tell because I read my children, and you can read them when you're paying attention. Sometimes I know as moms we work, we have laundry, we have dinner, we have to go grocery shopping, we have so many things to do, and then we got to shower at some point. We have to sleep at some point. So sometimes if we get so busy with life and just busy with taking care of them, we can miss out on those signs, right? So you want to pay attention and you want to talk to them and you want to be able to recognize different signs, right? So for me, disciplining at this age is probably just basically talking and guiding and helping my children to make better choices. When they were younger, I did spank, but I'm of the mindset that parents who spank are probably overwhelmed, irritated, um, and they're expressing a negative. They're using spanking or whoopings to get out their anger. Because for me, when my kids were younger, if they would touch like an electric socket, or if they would try to run in the street, or if they would touch the stove, I would pop their hand. Or if they got to tantruming, or they just got out of control. Because that last one, I told y'all, she liked to whine. That child would kick. She would scream. She was something else. Raylan. Child. Told you guys, I had a little PTSD from her. But I would pop her on her bottom. But now that I'm a grandmother of a toddler, I have never had to spank Dreamy. Dreamy will sometimes stomp her feet, or she and try to get a little aggressive. Like, she came over and visited me. When did she come over? Sunday, and she was doing all kinds of new things. She was rolling her eyes, and I felt like she was smacking her teeth. And I was like, girl. And then my daughter had one of her toys, and she was like, snatched it from her, like, give me my toys. And it had only been like a week or two that I hadn't seen her. But that was longer than I normally go without seeing Dream. I normally see her like a couple of times a week, but I hadn't seen her in like 2 weeks. And she was getting a little brolic over here. I'm like, girl, where you been at? What you been up to? Like, you doing too much. I mean, then she got mad and she said, "Argh!" And shook her little head and stomped her feet. And I said, Dream, if you don't cut it out, because that's normally all I have to tell her. Like, Dream, calm it down. And I would talk to her and I would soothe her. And after a while, she'll come up to me for a hug. Now, when my children were younger, when they would do all that stuff, I would just leave them where they were. Like, yes, yo, she learned something new. It was so funny. Like, I have a video of her. One of us have a video of her. And I want to show you how she's an actress. Because, like, she does this thing now where she'll look like she's so sad. And she'll poke her lip out. And then she has this thing where when she gets angry, she'll kind of, like, roll her head and, like, roll her eyes. And I'm like, girl, where are you getting this stuff from? Because Dreamy's normally only around older kids. She's not around kids her age most of the time. She's either around her aunties or she's around her mom and her father. So she doesn't get, well, at least I didn't think she was. Who knows what her mom does when they're not around me. But yeah, she was. Thank you. I love her, yes. Oh, she is so beautiful with the beautiful eyes. Yes, she's a doll. Dreamy, listen, I'm going to try to tell her mother how many kids she could have. I tell all my kids they can only have one kid, that I would only be a grandmother to one kid, and I wasn't going to be a grandmother to all these kids. So I only have one grandchild for what? How old is her sister? 13, 14. I only have one grandchild for so long. And, she was my baby. So When Dream came along, I had just got off work, and I I had to, excuse me guys, I gotta text somebody. I just got off work and I just started um, trying to figure out what I was gonna do for the next juncture in my life, because here I was just leaving a job that I thought I would retire from. So that brought a lot of changes within me on top of the ones I already had, because I always knew what I was going to do every day for my adult life. It was either college, and once I got out of college and got my degrees, then it was my career as a probation officer, and I was supposed to move up the ranks and retire from my job as a probation officer. But so that didn't work out the way I planned, and I thank God that it didn't. But now here I am, home with the children, and my daughter has a new baby. So I just fell in love with her. As soon as I had her, she had the biggest eyes, and she was just so cute and just cool and cool. And what she did for me was she gave me something else to focus on. And I just was tell her mom all the time, like, if I went 2 or 3 days, bring her over. She'd be like, you sure? I'm like, yes, bring her over. And she was so easy to watch. She wasn't a spoiled baby. And they say there's no such thing as a spoiled baby, but we all know babies cry. Some babies cry. Some babies have colic. Some babies are sickly and and all that different stuff. No, I don't have time for those kind of babies. Okay. Shout out to the moms who have unruly children, because my last one, she was a sweet baby like Dream, but when she got like 1 or 2, she was one of those unruly children, and she, whew, yikes. But anyway, Dreamy was a good baby, and Dreamy taught me a lot about myself, because I'm so patient with her. I'm just so patient with her, and I try to teach her everything. I've been teaching her sign language. She catches on really good, and she's just a little sponge, but she's so much fun. She loves to dance and sing. I hadn't seen her in 2 weeks, and my daughter brought her in, and whenever she comes to my house, she's gonna run straight to my room. And she ran to my room, and she stood at my doorway like, "What's up, Grandma?" And then she ran up to me for a hug, and I was like, okay, she loves her grandmother. But yeah, so I just feel like when it comes to discipline, always consider where you are as a parent. Always consider what you want your child to know. Do you want them to respect you, or do you want them to be afraid of you? Do you want to change a behavior? Because children are only going to do what we allow. And I see so many parents that let their kids do X, Y, and Z, and they just keep letting them do it. They let them do it. And then when they get tired of them, or say, for instance, I see some parents, they let their kids eat sugar all day. They let them run amok all day long. And then when it's time to go to bed, then they want to get stern, or they want to spank the kid before bed. Could you imagine spanking your child before they have to go to bed? Going to sleep is an event that requires peace. I know that as somebody who suffered from anxiety, that if you don't have peace, you can't go to bed. So whooping your child before they go to bed, could you imagine that? And then hollering at your kids. And I'm not going to say I didn't do that, because when I had to take my kids to school and I had to be at work and they were playing around and all that different stuff, that's probably when they got hollered at the most. And I always try to make sure that as a mom, that I always sent my kids off to school chill. I pray for them. Sometimes I be in here praying. I have my gospel going at full of peace. And them kids better make me curse at them while my gospel music is playing. Remember, we listen, we don't judge. Right? So, it gets real in the field. I've been that parent. I've been there. I'm not a perfect parent. I made mistakes as a mom. Like I said, with my first two, I wasn't a talker. I was young with my first daughter. My second daughter, I thought I was doing everything right. And I still had to get used to opening up my mouth and talking because here I am at coming home from a long day of work and I'm tired. And I just, with my last three, I had to really learn it doesn't matter if you're tired. It doesn't matter if you had a lot to do today. They still need you to talk to them. And if you're a mom and you have adult children, and if they have any complaints, their complaint is going to be you wasn't there. Yes, you bought me everything. I hear that from a lot of adults. Yes, I had everything, but I didn't have you. You were constantly at work, or you were constantly dating somebody new, or um, you had you were paying more attention to this child, or you never paid me any attention. You kind of left me hanging by the wayside. And as a mom, I'm always gonna look for signs that, okay, this child is too quiet. Let me talk to them more. Like my daughter Robin is very, very, very easygoing, very chill, very quiet. So and she's not gonna really come to me. Sometimes she will. But if she wants something or she wants to do something, she'll say, "Mom, I want to do this or I want to do that." So I have to take the extra step to say, "Hey, come on, let's binge watch your favorite show." Or she'll tell me, "Mom, this show is coming out," and I'll say, "You want to binge watch with me?" She'll say, "Yeah." And her her baby sister will be like, "Oh, I want to watch too," and I'm like, "Do you want it to just be me and you?" She'll say, "Yeah." I'm like, "Okay," because the little one is always right there, glued to my hip. That little baby, my baby, she's not even a baby, she's 13. But my baby is glued to my hip, okay, like Siamese twins. So I know that she gets a lot of me. My 18-year-old, she's always asking me for something because she stays in my pocket. So she's always trying to butter me up for something. So we talk a lot. But Robin, she's more easygoing, more chill. And I have to make sure that I'm talking to her more, right? So yeah, as a parent, you have to make sure that you just stay heavily invested in your children. Make sure that you know what they like and what they don't like. Um, and I'm going to segue into this next about if you're married or if you are unmarried and single and dating. We're going to talk about that next. So yes, it's about to get juicy. It's about to get juicy. Um, Make sure you're talking to your children. Make sure you are listening for what they're not saying. And you could tell that by their personalities, by their disposition, or if they're too quiet. Your child may need counseling. They may need you to get them a journal. They may need you to get them art supplies so that they can express themselves in a different way, because some kids can't express themselves to you. Not because you are not available to them, but because they don't have the words to use and they don't know how to express it, but they can express it in words in a journal, or they can express it through art by drawing or painting, or they may have designs on being a musician. But just make sure that you know what your child's strengths and weaknesses are, what they love. Um, so you're not just always in a rush to punish that kid that stays getting in trouble at school. Or you're not always in a rush to holler at that child that's not sitting still. Because sometimes they can't sit still, or sometimes they just have a little bit more energy. And that boy that can't sit still at school needs to be on a football field. He needs to be on a basketball team. That girl that's shy, maybe Girl Scouts, maybe a dance class, maybe vocal lessons or an instrument. If most of the time your child's little idiosyncrasies or negative behaviors can be solved by you investing more time in them and putting them in a sport or an extracurricular activity or getting them therapy, or you just talking to them and figuring out what's going on. You might not know that your kid has anxiety because the kids at school are bullying them, or they're having anxiety at school because they're just not getting that math homework. Every kid is not going to get everything. That doesn't mean your kid is dumb. That doesn't mean your kid has a learning disability. That just might not be their thing. When I was a kid, I was very studious. I was a quick learner. I read very well. I could write very well, but I wasn't somebody that could draw, or I wasn't somebody that could put a puzzle together really quickly. And I could dance. I could dance my tail off, but I wasn't an athlete, right? I wasn't really interested in sports. So be happy that your kid is left of center or colors outside of the lines. Don't punish them for that. It's mommy life. We might curse them out, but still say I love you and have a good day. Right, yo. Right. Right. I mean, I still curse. I'm not going to say I don't curse. I curse more than I want to. But for as far as, my children, before we leave the house, when we get in the car, we pray. We pray before we pull out of our driveway. And when they get out the car, I tell them I love them every day. So my kids are not, my kids know that their mom, hold on guys, 1 second. That was one of my crumb snatchers right there. Mom, are you coming to get me? That's why I got to hurry up and teach her how to drive. I have to hurry up and teach her how to drive because she, I don't know why I waited so long. I think I had that fear that once she started driving, she would be everywhere and places I didn't want her to be. But she has to learn. But I just get, so, I don't know. But she has to learn how to drive. So, yes, like I was saying earlier, we're going to get into moms who are married. And I'm Christian, even though I'm a cursing Christian. I still am saved. Jesus loves me, even though I curse. But I'm traditional. I'm very traditional, in that I feel that as a Christian, I feel, and I know everybody's not a Christian, so just bear with me. But as a Christian, I feel that if you're going to have children, then you should be married. And I feel that children should be brought up with a mother and father. I also feel that the father should be the head of the household. And I feel that the mother and father, that their marriage should come before the children. And I know a lot of people disagree with that. And I know a lot of people say, what? The father and mother come before the children? Yes. And the reason why I feel like that is because the mother and father have a union, right? And their union or their partnership is to make sure that their household is running the way it should run, meaning that the bills are paid, the children are fed, that they have insurance, that the kids have savings, so when they want to go to college, all those things, right? So if the mother and the father are the head of the household, or the father is the head of the household, he should be providing, he should be leading, he should be providing that protection for his household, right? And if the mother and father are doing that, then the children are underneath them. The children should be following their lead, should be learning from their example, right? Because one day the children are going to grow up and they're going to move out of their parents' house, right? The children are going to move out of their parents' house, and then what's left is a mother and father. And if the mother invested all of her time and energy into her children, then when it's time to be a wife, what does she have for her husband? Because she's been focusing on the children the whole time and hasn't been establishing that relationship and that connection with her husband. You think that's the same thing, Yo-Yo? Right. So I just feel like the mother and the father, that they're the team leaders and the children should follow their lead. It doesn't mean that you don't love your children, because here's the thing, if you married the right kind of man, if you chose somebody that you were equally yoked with, then what's going to happen is he's going to feel the same way about his children that you do. He's going to feel that he wants a certain life for his children. He's going to want you to mother them a certain way, and he's going to father them a certain way. Nobody is going to come before your family. You're going to make sure those children have school clothes, birthdays, Christmas. You're going to be working together to make sure your children have the things that they need, right? So it's not going to ever be like, oh, I'm only going to make breakfast for my husband. Oh, I'll get to the kids when I get to them. No. As your husband, he's going to be doing his part, and as their mother, you're going to be doing your part. And then you guys are going to share in those parenting duties. You're going to share in making sure your children are covered. But that marriage is important, because that team that you guys are building together, it needs to be solid. So what does that mean? That if the marriage is not strong and that union is not strong, you may divorce, and then your children don't have a mom and dad that they can depend on, right? So you got to make sure that you're, excuse me, let me drink some water. So as parents, a man and a woman has to make sure that they're taking the time to have those date nights, and that they're loving on one another, that they're putting the kids to bed early so they can spend a little quiet time together, so that they can be intimate and they can talk to one another and have that time to be with each other and talk about their day, or just not talk about nothing at all but each other. Just, embrace each other. See if you can see if the grandparents will have them for the weekend, so you guys can go off on a little mini vacation as mom and dad. You have to do that. You have to do that, because it's important, so that your union is strong for them babies, right? So I definitely am a staunch supporter. I'm definitely always going to be team married parents. Always going to be. But I think that it takes two. It takes a household of at least two, okay, to raise these kids. It's hard being a single mother. It was hard for me being a married mother. It's difficult any way you have it, but obviously if it's just you doing everything by yourself, it's going to be more difficult, right? So with that being said, I said what I thought about married couples who have children. So what about the single moms? Single moms. I know that it's harder for you, because I'm a single mother. I have to do everything, right? And it's a little bit harder for me because one of the parents can't be here. He's no longer on this earth, right? So I don't have to worry about sharing custody, but I also have to watch my kids grow up. And I think the worst part about him not being on this earth is that I'm watching my kids grow up, and the things that I think he should be here for, he's not here for, and that makes me sad for them. Like, their father should be here seeing them graduate. Their father should be here for, like, the sweet 16s and all those different things. So that's something that I have to deal with as well, right? Also, when I don't want to feel like getting up to take somebody to school, I don't have anybody to do that. I have to do it. If my asthma is flaring up, I still have to make sure my kids are taken care of, right? So I said earlier that I talk to my children and I make sure that they know I'm available to them. But because it's only me, I also got to take time for me, right? So I always have to make sure that as a mom that I'm taking the time I need to be by myself. I'm taking the time that I need to re-energize and rejuvenate, whether it's going to get my hair done or get my nails done or just go have some chai tea and sit in the parking lot of Starbucks and just enjoy my tea. Um, Content creation is really important to me, so I take time out for that. But I also make sure that my home life is taken care of too, right? I make sure that my children have a refrigerator stocked full of food. I make sure that I take my kids out and that they're not in the house bored, that I make plans for my children. That's very important to me, that my kids have something to look forward to this summer, that they're not just going to be at home bored all summer, right? So I do all those things as a parent. But when it comes to dating, I also got to consider my children, right? Because that's a problem with mothers who are dating and bringing men home. And I know this is going to stomp on some mothers' toes, because just because you're single, that doesn't mean that you don't want to mingle, right? You still got desires and you still got hormones raging, especially if you're a young mother. But I'm going to tell you something. That's not those kids' problem. All right? Yes, you need your mommy time. Yes, you need to have a partner or whatever you want to have. But that partner should never come into your home. Not without a lot of time spent vetting that new guy, without spending a lot of time getting to know him and seeing him in different seasons, really getting a chance to experience his personality and who he is as an individual, right? Because I think single moms move too fast because they want a father for their children, or they want somebody to share that load with them. But you just cannot replace it that easily. You just can't do it, because you run the risk of alienating your children, because they've already had to deal with the separation of their parents, or the fact that that other parent probably was never there or may have never been there, however it's going. But you don't want to introduce a new somebody to your children without really knowing who that new somebody is. Listen, all we have to do is go to social media, and we can see one story after another with a child being harmed by mommy's new boyfriend. Or this is what happens a lot too. Mommy is out dating, mommy is out working, so she's leaving her children with family members who aren't the best to be leaving kids with, and they're either not protecting them or they're doing something untoward with the child. And you don't want your child to go through that kind of trauma. You just don't want your child to experience that, because if your child goes through that, they may never get over it, right? So take the time to get to know the person that you're dating. Make sure that if you're a mom, you're a single mom, that you did all you could, because in spite of our best efforts, sometimes things happen. But you don't want it to happen because you weren't cautious. You don't want your child to be harmed because you didn't do due diligence to make sure that the person that you allowed in your home was safe. You can do investigations. You can make sure that you be around their family and you see how their family and friends respond to them. You see how you can find out a lot about a person by how they go to work, how they keep their own home. Do they date a lot of women? You can find out a lot about a person by not even having to ask, by just being observant and paying attention, right? Because that's what you want to do. I always say it only takes 5 minutes to get to know somebody. It doesn't take a long time. It doesn't take years. Within 5 minutes of talking to somebody if that's somebody that you should keep in your life, right? And if you don't know, then you shouldn't be dating anybody anyway. You need to be a little bit more seasoned yourself. But you should be able to know within the first 5 minutes, you know if that's somebody that you want to be friends with, and you know if that's somebody that you want to, if you can see yourself having a future with, and you definitely know if they should be around your children. The reason why you may not know that is if you allow things like loneliness or what other people are saying about you being single. If you let those things cloud your judgment, then you may not be able to see that new guy for who he is. And some people say, oh no, some people gaslight you. Some people love bomb you. Okay, well then that means you still haven't taken enough time, because I'm going to tell you this. You can only pretend but for so long, right? And if you have people in different situations, and sometimes, like I said, it might take 6 months, it might take a year, but you're going to get to see that person be angry, you're going to get to see that person be happy, you're going to get to see that person experience joy. Within 6 months to a year, you're going to get to see that, because we all experience life, right? Nobody has it just to where their life is peaches and cream, right? You're going to have a bad day at work. You're going to have a car cut you off. You're going to go to a restaurant or to a grocery store, and you're going to have to wait in a long line when you're tired after you've been at work, right? So you're going to get to see somebody, and you might be on a cell phone hearing them, how they're responding to the cashier. You're going to see how they talk about their employer or how they talk about their family members. And you should be ingesting all of that, mulling it over in your head, and coming up with your with who you with your idea of who this person is, and if they have the type of value system and the type of personality that would be a good idea for you to have your kids around. If you haven't done that homework on a person and you bring them around your children, you're like basically playing Russian roulette with their life, and you're even doing it with your life, because I see another thing that's happening to a lot of single mothers is they're marrying these jokers, right? And these jokers are ending their lives. They don't know a lot about them, or they do know about him, and they do see that he's not really a good character, moral character, and they're still marrying them anyway, right? And then it doesn't take them long to end their life. It doesn't take them long at all. Have you guys heard that story? Heard about that story about the woman? She had 2 children, and she married this guy that was in prison, right? And her father actually wrote a letter for him to be released from prison. And he had already unalived his first wife, right? And she married him anyway. I think that if somebody unalived their first wife and they're in jail for that, I think that should be your very first indicator that you don't want to bring him home to your children, right? But this lady did it anyway. And she married this man, and she was with him for a couple of years, and I guess things went okay. She had 2 children for him. Who knows how long things really were okay. But he started to get angry, and he started to show the same signs as before. And what he did was, in front of her, he tied her up, he tortured her and did things to her, but he also made her watch, okay, as he did that to her children, right? So that's not a story that happens every day, but it's happening a lot. It's happening a lot. Like I said on another live, you can go to YouTube and go to some of these YouTube channels, and they have a brand new story every day. And these stories, okay, are not from 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago. They can come up with a new story from the last 365 days, right? They can produce a new story every day on their channel about something that recently happened to a mom, recently happened to a woman. And it's always the same story. Guy just released from prison. Guy, they didn't know him. He was abusive, whatever, right? So you just really got to take your time. I know you guys want to be with somebody but take your time to get to know them and date them, and believe a person when they show you who they are. If they already have a criminal background 9 times out of 10, they haven't changed. They haven't. Especially if they had crimes of being an abuser before. Right? So, yeah. Let me see. What else did I have on the agenda to talk about tonight? I talked about so much. Thank you guys for joining the live. Please do me a solid and hit the thumbs up for me. I think I want to talk about, because we went over budgets. We've already, if you just now tuned into the live, then you missed us talking about the budgeting as a mother. You missed me discussing what to do for the summer with your children, summer plans, pet peeves as a mom. I'm gonna save this one for the last one. Being child-free, children over 30. So let's talk about special needs and autism and things like that as a mom. If you have a child that has special needs, that has ADHD, that has autism, comment in the chat, because that's a different beast altogether. But especially if you don't know the resources that are available to you. If you have insurance, then you want to call your insurance carrier and see what different resources are available to your child if they have special needs. If you have Medicare or something like that, they have different respite resources, in-home care services. See what all is available to you to alleviate some of that off of you, because I know there are parents who have to work and who have children who have autism, or who have children who have special needs, right? So that's a lot for you to make sure that your child is well cared for, especially if they're not school age yet. Once your kids become school age, and I don't know about now because they've done away with the Department of Education, so I don't know exactly what resources are available in each state. So you want to contact the school board and see. But I know that before, until your child was 3, they received a certain service from a different agency, and then once they became 3, they go get the services from school. So just educate yourself, go online and Google. Let Google be your friend. And I know a lot of people say, oh, don't Google this, you don't know, but that's a good way to start. Also, another way to start is to go to Facebook. Facebook has a group for everything. Last year, I was diagnosed with LCIS. That's a form of breast cancer. I have the early stage of that, like stage 0, right? It's not really cancer, but I have a high probability of definitely it progressing into that, but I'm praying that it never does. But I joined the group, and so I could see what other women were saying about their LCIS. Anything that you can think of, there's probably a Facebook group. And if it's not one, start your own group so that you can take the information that you learn and start educating other mothers, because I guarantee you, unless it's just some rare disorder. And you can also do different topics, right? Moms who are caregivers, right? Caregiver groups, so that it doesn't necessarily have to be like you made a group or you're in a group for moms of kids with autism or moms of kids with ADHD. Parents who have children with special needs tend to require the same things, right? You need help with someone providing care for your children. You need to make sure that your kids are getting the IEPs that they need and that you are advocating for your children. Or you may need help with getting things like outside resources for your children, additional resources that your neurotypical children may not need, right? So Comment below if you have a child with special needs, or you know, you're trying to figure out your way as a mom with, and you just had a baby with special needs, or because that can change your life as well. If you were pregnant and you thought you were going to bring a healthy, and I'm not saying that a special needs child can't be healthy, but that you brought you're bringing a child home who has different needs or additional needs, right? So that can be a lot for a parent to have to endure, right? So just educate yourself, find support groups, and also make sure that you are taking the time for yourself, because raising a child with special needs can be overwhelming, because oftentimes they need round the clock care, right? Or sometimes you may have to you need additional help, and sometimes that help is not available. So you're overworked and you're tired, and it can be very frustrating. So make sure you're getting that extra supports that you need. All right. Let's see. I want to talk about postpartum depression, right? And they used to say that postpartum depression lasted about 2 years. Now they're calling it, instead they used to have postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis, but now they're also diagnosing women with postpartum anxiety. And they're saying that women may never, okay, be free of that postpartum anxiety. So that's something to think about, right? Today I was reading a blog called The Neighborhood Talk, and a woman, she was staying at a hotel with, I think she had 5 children, and she attempted to suffocate or unalive all of her children, right? But she had a child that got the phone and called the police and got them help. But she was very close to doing it to like a little baby, right? So they, of course, put her in jail. But the thing that I saw that I didn't see when Andrea Yates did that, like I think she was in Texas, and I want to say this was in 2020, so 25 years ago. All you saw was people calling for that woman's head. Andrea Yates had already shown signs of postpartum depression or psychosis when she was on her 3rd child. And her pastor told her don't have any more children. But her husband, of course, got her pregnant 2 more times. And she lost her mind, and the kids lost their life. But so many people called for her head. They want to see her get the chair. They said, how can a mom do this? And it was just so crazy the way that she was treated. And that same year, I think it was 2000, I saw so many stories about women doing the same thing or just taking their own lives, right? So to see now in 2025, to see the story about this mom at the hotel with her 5 children, and to see so many comments saying, I'm praying for the mother and the child. Who knows what that mother is going through. She just had a 3-month-old. She's probably having postpartum depression, and she probably has no help. And to see so many people sympathetic with her, because we understand more about postpartum depression and postpartum psychosis. We understand that when a woman has a child, so I kind of get, I'm going to double back a little bit. I kind of get women who say they don't want to have children, because it's a lot. It's a lot. Going 9 months, carrying a child, having your organs rearranged, and then having your hormones turn topsy-turvy. It is a lot being a mother. It is so hard being a mother, right? And then having to raise these children to adulthood unscathed, with no trauma. Make sure you feed them right. Make sure you educate them properly. Make sure you train them up so that they are respectable members of society who can fend for themselves, who can provide for themselves, and not have to lean on you or anybody. That's a tough job. And don't have more than one. Don't have more than one. So you're responsible for If you're a mother of 5 like me, you're responsible for making sure you do this with 5 kids, right? So it's a lot. It's a lot. And then if you're like me, when you got pregnant, you thought about having your child and bringing home a healthy baby and experiencing that joy and bliss. But then if you're like this mom, that's a gut punch, right? To lose your mental health because your hormones are out of whack, right? That's a lot for a mom to have to go through. And then this medicine might be working, that medicine might not be working, and it's just an adjustment of your hormones. And like I said, sometimes a woman never gets back to where she was, especially if she has child after child. If you have postpartum depression with one child, right, then I would say that you should highly consider having any more children, because you may get your mind back, but the more children you have, the likelihood is that you won't, and you'll just never be yourself, and you'll just always be miserable. I don't know the data on that, so don't take my word as gospel, but I just feel, just from being educated on the subject of postpartum depression, I just feel that if you are not careful with your mental health and you just keep allowing yourself to have child after child, like Andrea Yates, and like this mom that I read about today, she had 5 children under 12 years old, and her most recent child was like 3 months old, and she was living in a hotel, right? So that right there lets you know that not only was her mental health in peril, but she had limited resources. So she probably didn't need to have that last child anyway. Because where was the father? Who's to say the father isn't present? Maybe he just wasn't there because Andrea Yates was married and she did what she did while her kids fought, while her husband was at work. So, yeah, that's one of the things I wanted to talk about as well, because if you find yourself with anxiety or feeling like you're not yourself, there are places you can go to. You don't have to keep it a secret. You don't have to feel like you're alone, because so many women are talking about it these days, and don't feel like, oh, they're going to take my kids, or don't feel like, oh, I can't tell anybody. I'm so embarrassed. I'm so ashamed. Again, people know about postpartum depression, and they know how it affects a mom, and people will help you, right? So don't be afraid to talk about that. And like I said, if you have one child with postpartum depression, seriously reconsider if you're going to have more. Take care of yourself, because your child needs you and you need you. You need you. All right? So thank you guys for tuning in. On that note, I'm going to end it with, what do you love most about being a parent or a mother? What do you love most about being motherhood? Besides the obvious of bringing home a new bundle of joy and smelling that new baby and watching it go from sleeping all day to crawling and walking and talking and learning and just seeing their facial expressions. What I love that part of motherhood. I love dressing my babies up in cute outfits. I love pushing them in the stroller. I love hearing them laugh and sit on my lap and play Itsy Bitsy Spider with my children. I love teaching them that and singing songs with them and signing with my children. I love doing all of that stuff, right? But even when it got shaky, when they started tantruming at the terrible twos, I couldn't stand the terrible two stage, because that's when kids start rebelling a little bit and start finding themselves and figuring out their emotions, right? So you go through that little stage between, I want to say, about 15, 16, 17, 18 months until they're about 3, right? Then they kind of relax a little bit. They're kind of chill, right? And then when they go to school, oh, I love the first day of school. That just, oh, I could just remember when all my babies had their first day of school. It's just a beautiful day. It's just a beautiful time for them, because you know they're growing up and they're going to be learning new things. So I love that. I love. I guess what I want to say is I love watching my children grow up and being there for all the ups and downs of their life, all the the times when I'm teaching them new things and I'm going through things with them and they're learning how to tie their shoelaces or they're learning how to ride a bike for the first time. I like all of those things. And I also like seeing my children reach goals for themselves. I like seeing them achieve things like their awards at school. I love being there watching them. And I love when my children can look out into the audience and know mommy's right there. I love teaching my children about God and who He is and what He means to their life and how they should rely heavily on Him. And I love how my children love me and know that they can count on me as their mother. So, even with all the ups and downs of being a mother, even with being a single mother and having to raise my children on their own, I'm so grateful that I serve a good God who's always made sure me and my children have what we need and who's always provided protection for us and just kept me going because there were times where I didn't see how I would forge ahead because I had so much against me or, I was dealing with so much. But I just kept relying on my faith and kept praying. And I looked at my children and I kept saying to myself, you got to keep going. You got to keep going. And I'm so grateful that God has blessed me with them. They are just awesome, amazing children. They're not perfect by a long shot. Neither is their mother. We're not perfect over here, but we're perfect for each other. And I'm grateful to God for them. So thank you guys for tuning in on this motherhood episode. I hope I was able to provide some clarity and insight to this thing called motherhood. I have my ideals and my opinions. Like I said, I may have ruffled some feathers and stepped on some toes today. Totally wasn't trying to hurt anybody's feelings and totally wasn't trying to make anyone feel bad about their choices. This is just how I think. Some of you may agree, and some of you may listen to this and be like, girl, you have your nerves, and dot, 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 dot. It's okay. Comment how you feel about it in the comments. Let me know. We'll discuss it. I'll get down there, and we'll chunk them in the comments. We'll go back and forth. Because one thing about me, I love to debate, and I love to have discussions, and I love to just, hey, be a voice to somebody who doesn't have a voice, or to just, hey, let you guys know that you're on the right track with your thinking. I was about to say have a good weekend, y'all. But have a good night. We have a long week ahead of us. We have a long summer ahead of us, right? I'm excited to do some great things this summer. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please consider subscribing to my channel. I am the Mommy Money Getter. I post content of surrounding my life as a mom, as a content creator, and just as a creative. And I love being a content creator. So check out some of my videos. I have lots of different playlists that may interest you. And take good care of yourself. Good night. Goodbye. Good morning.